வந்துருச்சு. Good morning, Sugandhan sir. Welcome.
Good morning, Jean. Thank you. How's my lighting and the voice? Is it audible?
Yeah, it's clear. But I think you could
okay.
little bit improve your lighting because to your left you are little dark. Let me check.
How is it now?
Now it's better. Now it's better.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah.
Let us wait till 10:05 and let's start the program, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
சாரி எடுத்து வேண்டாம் அப்ப எதிர்ப்பு கொஞ்சம் வச்சு வருதா இதுவும் கேட்கல என்ன பண்ணணும் சார்ஜ் இருக்கா
Participants, I request you to mute yourself. We are not yet started the program. It will be started soon. Krishna Devi ma'am, please mute your phone. We are about to start the program. Participants, get ready. Vanakkam, Vandanam, Namaste, Namaskar and welcome. Happy morning, fellas. The excitement we have in dealing with career development in circumstances which we are told, sometimes threatened, the very concept is throbbing. We are facing a declining promoting opportunity from schools to colleges and from colleges to workplace. These shifting responsibilities really demands challenging strategies. Fear not, this webinar on verbal ability, a key skill in career building, will help you to sketch it out. Let us start the program with a formal note of welcoming. To do so, I invite Ms. Christina Abraham, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Easwari Engineering College, to welcome and to introduce the speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good morning to all of you and a warm greetings on behalf of SRM Easwari Engineering College, Chennai. It is always an honor to be able to motivate and inspire young minds. They are our future generation. With this in mind, I proudly welcome our renowned and distinguished speaker for the day, Dr. Sugandhan, Assistant Professor, Vellore Institute of Technology, a young dynamic, give each of us a chance to build on our strengths and update our knowledge. I am also happy to welcome Dr. Sam, Head of the English Department, who has been the guiding force and a great support to us. I also welcome my colleagues, Ms. Jean Aida, and Mr. Anbumani, who have contributed their work to organize this meeting. So before I hand over the session to our speaker, I request Jean ma'am to give some instructions for the participants. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Christy. Here are a few instructions that are to be followed during the webinar session. Participants, please keep your microphone in mute mode. And if at all you get any questions, you are welcome to post your questions in the chat box, to which the speaker will be answering it at the end of the session, or if time permits, or else we will be answering your question to your mail ID. We will send the answers to your mail ID. Do not interrupt the speaker at any cost. You will be getting the feedback link during the session in the chat box, to which if you fill it, you will get your certificates within a week. It's a process and you will receive your certificates within a week. If you have any other doubts, please post it in the chat box. We will be answering your questions. I think it's high time to hand over the floor to the speaker. Sir, over to you.
Yeah. So, thank you, Professor Jean. I'd like to thank Easwari Engineering College, Dr. Sam Dawson, Professor Jean Idea, Professor Christina, and Professor Anbumani, the coordinators of this event. And special thanks to Jean, who's my close friend, for inviting me to be a speaker. The topic for today is verbal ability, verbal aptitude. We can call it otherwise as verbal aptitude also. So this is a key skill for a career building, right? So good morning, everyone. So I'm going to begin the session. So this topic, it's a very generic topic. This is not something related only to a particular group of audience. So this is a very generic topic. Anyone can learn verbal ability and verbal aptitude, which would be useful for anyone's career at any time, right? So let's begin. I'll go with my presentation. Professor Jean, is my presentation visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can go ahead. Very well. Yes, sir.
All right. So before we begin actually with the verbal aptitude, we must see why it is important. We'll go to verbal aptitude a little later by knowing why it is actually important. So why it is actually important is because of this employability. So there is a factor called employability, which is very, very essential for taking an employment. So employability is nothing but equipping yourself to be employable so that any employer can pick you right away. So equipping yourself, so being employable, so making yourself employable. So that is employability. So overall, in the Indian graduates, 33% of the Indian graduates were only employable by 2014, whereas it is growing gradually, and it has reached to 47% by 2019, as per the survey by NASSCOM. But when you see the graph, this is not something good when you take a population like India, right? So we got a huge population and we got a huge number of graduates who's coming out every year with a degree. But out of that, only 47% of the people are really employable, which means they are the only people who are eligible to go for a job. So the rest are all lagging somewhere, right? So the same survey has put up the reasons, some of the common reasons probably that ranges actually from the school education of our students, right? So right from their K-12, grade 12 of education, selection procedures in our graduate colleges. So that also affects the quality of education that is put upon the students. The curriculum that our higher education institutions provide, and the quality of teaching, and most importantly, the interest of the students that they provide, right? So interest of students towards employability. So that is lacking. So that is where we need to improve. So what are the important traits that employers look into the fresh graduates, right? So employers look at a mix of aptitude, language, personality, and their key domain skills. Domain skills like the core skills, which they have studied from the graduation, right? So these are the key aspects that employers look when they pick candidates, and they choose candidates for various roles. So the core domain skills that they look from the candidates, it vary from industry to industry. So each and every industry have different requirements. So as per that, they look for the skills from the graduates. So it is important that a graduate has to equip himself or herself for the different domains. And also, most importantly, so this is something common. So aptitude, language, and personality skills. These are required for all the domains. This is not something like the core domain. So these are the common things that is required for all the domains. But the intensity varies from role to role. The trends in the employment, if we see trends in the employment in the sense, what is the actual expectation of the young graduates? So IT sector and the banking sector have been the traditional choices for our students who are graduating. Their choice, the first choice, whatever it is, would be IT and the banking sector, because the highest paid sector in India, right? So they still continue to remain, even though it's a traditional career choice. It has been in the trend for the past 15 to 20 years, but still it continues. The trend continues. And also the other areas where they are recognized as emerging employment areas are KPOs, knowledge process outsourcing, and hospitality industry is also developing steadily in India. Healthcare and other financial services are also giving a lot of employment opportunities. And retail sectors recently the top giants in India like Tata, Reliance, and so many other business giants, they are investing a lot in retail sector, and this sector is also going to give a lot of employment opportunities. So opportunities are there. So the only thing is we need to equip ourselves. So why am I saying about employability and employment to the target group of this presentation? Because the target group of this presentation is actually the diploma holders as well as school students. You need to prepare yourself from this stage to make yourself employable when you complete a degree, right? So I think you must be aware that when students prepare for IITs, right? So they start their preparations right from their 8th standard. So grade 8, they start their preparation from grade 8 because it is a very intensive examination. JEE is a very intensive examination which involves a lot of, which requires a lot of input from the test takers. So that's why they start this preparation very earlier. Similarly, MBA aspirants, when they look for admissions into key institutions like IIM and other things, they start the entrance preparations right from their undergraduation, the first year of their undergraduation. So similarly, if you want to be employable, it may be for any job, it may be for any kind of job, you need to equip yourself, you need to make yourself employable, and that should be the preparation should start right from before you enter into any higher education institutions, which means any college, right? So you need these 3-4 years of time span to make yourself employable, and this particular aspect, verbal ability and verbal aptitude, this needs 3 to 4 years of time frame to make yourself equipped to crack any verbal aptitude test. All right. So to develop your employability and to make yourself employable, you need to work on the right direction. You need to find your strength and weaknesses, and you need to start work on that. Some people, for example, they may be good at grammar and vocabulary, but they may be weak at personality, right? So they may have to work on their soft skills, right? But the others, some people, they may be the vice versa. So they would be good at presentations, but they may lag at verbal aptitude part. So that is grammar and vocabulary. So there they have to work. So this is how first you need to diagnose. Self-assessment is very, very necessary. You need to analyze yourself. You need to find your strength, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. So we call it as SWOT analysis, SWOT. SWOT analysis. You must do a SWOT analysis for yourself, right? So what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities you have, and what are the threats you may come across, right? So if you analyze and if you plan and work, you can easily make yourself employable. So how this verbal ability is important in your career building. So verbal aptitude is actually a part of an English language assessment. So that is a part in almost all type of competitive examinations in India and also in international scenario. So whatever competitive examination that you take up, you will have verbal aptitude as a part, right? So whether it is for an admission into a good higher academic institution or for a job immediately after graduation, you will come across this verbal aptitude test, right? So why verbal aptitude test? Because it can easily measure a candidate's suitability and potential, right? So that's why employers and those who are in the admission panel, they prefer to have verbal aptitude and verbal ability in the competitive examinations. So what employers actually look, right? So through verbal aptitude examination, what they check is whether the candidate is able to identify critical business related issues and logically draw conclusions, right? So through the reading exercises and other grammatical exercises, they will check whether you can read and comprehend something which is critical, which involves some critical issues, and also whether you can produce clearly written organizational reports and documents. So when you are employed, you cannot bear any mistakes, right? So you need to be perfect. So you have, whenever you prepare a document or whenever you prepare a report, it must be perfect, right? So your reading skill, your written skill should be perfect, and you need to articulate business related issues in a clear and simple manner to your colleagues, managers and customers. So dealing with intense reading material and also conveying the same intense material in a simplified manner to your colleagues and other people in the organization. So this is what they check, the employers check, whether you are potential enough, whether you are capable enough to handle these aspects through verbal aptitude tests. The structure of the test, right? So verbal aptitude, how it is different from the other English tests, right? So I'll tell you how. Verbal ability tests are timed, right? Timed in the sense not just any time. The time is very limited and the questions are more, right? And also some exams may have negative markings, right? So they give importance in time to increase competency, right? They want more competitive people who work on time. So that's why they put this time factor into verbal ability tests. And also, they give negative markings to extract accuracy. So they check how accurate you are in your answers and how confident you are in your answers, and that's why there are negative markings. But negative markings are not there in all the verbal ability tests or verbal aptitude tests. Yes, some exams may have negative markings, but some exams without negative markings also there are some verbal ability tests, right? So the tests are designed this way with a limited time so that they can employers can pick right candidates from a large gathering of test takers. So as you are aware that when in an institution, when there is a campus placement, so many people will apply and so many people will take up the campus placement procedures. And the first procedure would be this verbal ability test, right, where they filter majority of the candidates and they handpick a few for the next other rounds, right? So this is a filtering mechanism also used by the employers. So what is difficult verbal aptitude test? So each verbal aptitude test, so the difficulty of the verbal aptitude test vary as per the intensity of the test. So the level of difficulty is maintained across all the test questions. For example, if you take MBA admission entrance test, right? CAT, CAT is the toughest entrance examination for entrance into MBA, right? There are other few examinations also like MAT, XAT, ZAT, another few examinations are there, and few other institutions they conduct their own entrance examinations, right? So based on the difficulty of the test, the difficulty of the verbal aptitude questions will also vary. So the verbal aptitude test's level of difficulty is determined by four main factors. That would be the length of the reading passages that they give, right? So in a difficult level of verbal aptitude test, for example, tests like CAT and TOEFL, right? The length of the passage would be long, right? So you will take more time to read that passage, and you need to tackle that, and also you need to read that quickly, and you need to answer the questions. And the next factor, what makes the verbal ability difficult is complexity of the text, right? So if it is a level easy kind of verbal aptitude test, you will get the reading passages from generic fields, right? It may be from art or something. You could easily find the information in day-to-day global scenario. Whereas if you take a higher grade of verbal aptitude tests, like in CAT and TOEFL, the complexity of the text itself would be very difficult. And the other thing that makes more difficult is the use of language, the diction that they use in the reading passages and other questions. It would be difficult to comprehend. And the other important factor is time constraint. More number of questions given in a very short span. So that makes it very, very difficult. Right. So lengthier passages make it more difficult for you to comprehend the data, right? Once the passage is lengthier, it will be difficult for you to read and process all the information, and also number of information would be more. Similarly, the complexity of the text also increases. For example, when you go for CAT and other similar examinations, you will have reading passages from core science articles, published articles, and also from medical field. So where you have to take a lot of time for you to understand and comprehend what is given in the passage. So the complexity of the text increases, the length of the passage increases, and use of higher language and rarer words, right? So if you find more number of such words in the passage, you would be wasting more number of time in comprehending that words. So that makes the reading passages more and more difficult. Time constraint, right? So this 30 seconds I'm giving you, it's just an average, right? So normally you can take actually 30 seconds time per question in verbal aptitude test, not more than that, which includes the reading comprehension also, which means you may have to spare more time for the reading comprehension question, and you have to take less time for other questions like vocabulary and other questions. So you need to plan your verbal aptitude test before you get into the test actually. All right. So now I'm going to give a few examples to show you what are the different levels in the verbal aptitude test reading part, right? So just take a few minutes time to read this passage. If you are a fitness walker, there is no need for a commute to a health club. Your neighborhood can be a health club. You don't need a lot of fancy equipment to get a good work either. All you need is a well-designed pair of athletic shoes. Right. So this is all about daily morning exercise, and it is quite easy to understand, right? And the choice, if you see, fitness walking is a better form of exercise than weightlifting. So nowhere you find a very hard word or a very rare word here. So it's very easy to read and also very easy to answer also, right? So this I have taken from a level easy verbal aptitude test. So this is level intermediate, right? It's not difficult, and at the same time, it's not quite easy to, right? About 130 years ago, Frederick Law Olmsted and his collaborator Calvert Vaux submitted their landscaping plan for a rectangular parcel 2 miles north of the town center. The barren, swampy tract, home for squatters and a board boiling works that made glue, was reported as a pestilential spot where miasmic odors taint every breath of air. It took 16 years for workers with pickaxes and shovels to move 5 million cubic feet of earth and rock and to plant 500,000 trees and shrubs. So if you see this passage, it's not quite difficult, but the choice of words used here is rather difficult than what it is used here. Am I right? So here you can find the intensity of the words that are used. The diction that's used here is a bit difficult than the previous passage which we have seen. So now I'm moving on to level difficult. So just take 2-3 minutes time to read and understand this passage. Quite difficult to read itself, right? So just ignore the comprehension part. Reading itself would be difficult for this level of passage. Then comes understanding that. So only if you are familiar with astrophysics, you can really understand what it is given here in this passage. So verbal aptitude is something that doesn't confine with language aspect. It involves other aspects also, which involves your knowledge on global affairs. All right. To practice your verbal aptitude test, so having different levels of difficulty, verbal aptitude in verbal aptitude test, if even if you have a good control, you can feel that I have a good command over English. Well, I can easily crack any verbal aptitude test. No, it's not like that. Taking a verbal aptitude test is a different ball game. As I have shown in the previous slide. So this is level difficult. So you cannot just go away and crack this question with your English knowledge. So you need to have knowledge on other aspects too, right? So verbal aptitude test is not an easy path, or it's not a cakewalk. It needs a lot of preparation. So that is why I have taken this particular topic for this group of audience, because this is the right time you start your verbal aptitude test preparation. So it will not go in vain. So if you prepare for a verbal aptitude test, the basic is something common. Only the type of questions vary from test to test. So if you are good enough in the basics of the verbal aptitude, you can easily crack any verbal aptitude test. All right. So the other important thing is we are all ESL. We are all the category we come under ESL. We have taken English as a second language, right? So for us, it's not a native language. It would be difficult for us to comprehend something. To grasp the grammar and vocabulary, but it is not something difficult. We can easily tackle that, provided we spend some quality time in preparation, which means we spend some time in reading, writing, and other aspects which will equip ourselves for verbal aptitude tests. All right. So there are a few time-saving strategies where you can quickly grasp this verbal aptitude. Is basic reading techniques. So you need to spend a lot of time on reading. Reading in the sense not just similar type of text material. For example, some people are good at newspapers, right? So they have the habit of reading newspapers. But don't confine yourself with reading newspapers alone. Go for other aspects of reading also. So go for fiction. Go for reading articles from magazines. Go for internet reading, other things, right? So reading strategies, you need to find different reading strategies. So if you do a lot of different types of reading, naturally your reading speed increases and your level of comprehension increases, right? And also you need to plan your test, right? So time factor is another important factoring element in verbal aptitude test. You need to plan your test. You need to fix the time frame for each and every question, and you need to fix that time, and you need to stand by that time. All right. Now I'm going into the verbal aptitude. What is actually a verbal aptitude? What are the different types of questions that you can expect in verbal aptitude? Spelling and vocabulary questions. So vocabulary questions are like synonyms. There will be a word given followed by different choices. You need to find a similar meaning word from the choice. And antonyms, you need to find a meaning opposite of that from the given choice. And word analogies will be given. So I'll explain that in further slides. And reading comprehension will be there. In any kind of verbal aptitude test, yes, there will be reading comprehension. Sentence formation questions, right? Grammar usage, different aspects of grammar will be tested in the verbal aptitude test. And reasoning, logical reasoning questions would be there. All right. I'm giving you a few samples from different verbal aptitude tests. One is spotting errors, right? There will be a sentence like this, which will be segregated into sections as A, B, C, and D, right? So the sentence we discussed about the problem so thoroughly on the eve of the examination that I found it very easy to work it out. And there is a different section also. It says no error, that is D. So the sentence is split into three halves, three equal halves as A, B, C, and the D section D is no error. right? You need to find where the error is, and if there is no error, you can choose option D. Whereas in this question, there is an error, which is there is about after discuss. So after discuss, we should not use about in English. So that is an error there. So the actual sentence formation should be like this: we discussed the problem. It's not discussed about. We discussed the problem so thoroughly. The next type are analogy questions. Analogy questions are quite interesting also, which involves your vocabulary skills and also your logical reasoning. If you see the question, sculpture colon statue. So for this is the question, followed by poet colon a question mark, right? So here we need to find the relationship between the sculpture and the statue. So what may be the relationship between the sculpture and the statue? Obviously, the statue is made by the sculpture. The sculpture is the creator of statue. And poet, what do the sculpture do? He creates statue. Similarly, what do the poet do? He creates verse. So answer C. So similarly, whenever you get an analogy question, you need to find the relationship between the first two words given, and I should apply the same logic for the question word. So here the question word is poet, and what may be the similar logic applied, and what may be the correct choice is verse. So a sculpture creates a statue and poet creates a verse. The next common questions that comes from grammar is prepositions, right? So here he'll have a sentence: the peasant refused to grovel dash the feet of his master, right? So here you need to supply the suitable preposition. So grovel, fall at the feet, right? So naturally grovel at the feet of his master, right? So you need to read the sentence completely, and you need to find where the preposition comes and which preposition is actually the right one, right? So here you need to solve these questions. If you need to solve these questions, you need to be good in grammar, right? So the basic grammar, you should be very, very good in the basics of English grammar, and also you should have a good number of vocabulary. Only if you have good number of vocabulary, you can solve vocabulary questions. The other type of questions that you can get is jumbled sentences, right? Normally a paragraph, the initial sentence would be given. So that is S1. So here S1 is, Venice is a strange and beautiful city in the north of Italy, right? So this is the first sentence. But the rest of the sentences are jumbled. So all you need to do is, the rest of the sentences are given alphabet as P, Q, R, S, T. So they are marked with alphabet P, Q, R, S, T, right? You need to find the right order to make it as a perfect paragraph. So here, in this sentence 1, Venice is a strange and beautiful city in the north of Italy. What may be the next sentence? So here it is, yes, it is not one island, but 117 islands. These small islands are near one another, right? There are about 400 old stone bridges joining the islands of Venice. In this city, there are no motor cars, no horses, and no buses. This is because Venice has no streets, right? So you need to read all the choices first. You need to logically arrange the choice and see the possible options. So here options will be given like this. Like S1 is the first sentence. SRPQT is the choice I have taken, whereas the other choices would be like TRPSQ, QRPST. So similarly like this. All you need to do is first read all the choices, and logically you need to connect all those sentences. You will get the answer choice clearly. Questions are phrasal verbs. So replace a word with the suitable phrasal verb. So here, they arrived unexpectedly while we were having dinner, whereas it can be turned as they turned up. Instead of arrived, there is a phrasal verb used, turned up. So, for this, there will be different phrasal verbs given in the choice. All you need to do is find the suitable phrasal verb for that verb and replace the verb with the suitable phrasal verb. The other type of questions that you can expect are homophones. Homophones are the words that sound similar, but they differ in meaning. Similarly, we have a question here, corpse and corpse. So they sound similar, but they differ in spelling as well as they differ in meaning. So the first, CORPS, it stands for troops, group of troops. Normally, it is used in defense, right? And also, if you take NCC, the expansion of NCC is National Cadet Corps, right? A group of troops, they are called as corps. And the next word, corpse, CORPSE. So this stands for a dead body, right? So here you need to identify the meaning, difference in the meaning for the homophones. All right. Vocabulary questions, basic vocabulary questions, which you can find in almost all verbal aptitude tests. That is synonyms and antonyms. Synonyms, here a word is given, you need to find a suitable word which is similar in the meaning, right? So out of the choice given here, repair, callback, return, and recover. Which is a suitable one for retrieve? Recover is the suitable meaning for retrieve. And antonyms, you need to find the exact opposite of the meaning, right? So here turbulent is the question given. Turbulent, you can feel turbulence when there is a disturbance, right? Boiling, tranquil, disturbing, comfortable. So here all the three other words, boiling, tranquil, disturbing, disturbing and all, they are synonymous to turbulent, and opposite to turbulent would be comfortable. This is also something which is common in almost all verbal ability tests. They are sentence completion. So there will be a word or a group of words missing in any sentence. You need to find that missing words from the given choice. So here it's a grammatical question actually. He evaded to pay income tax for a long time. So here to pay is grammatically incorrect because we have a time frame here given as a long time. So here we should have a word that ends with ing, right? So here paying would be the right replacement. So he evaded paying income tax for a long time. So sentence completion, it can be from both the sectors. It can be from the grammar questions as well as it can be from sentence completion. All right. So the next important aspect, that is why I've reserved it for the last, reading comprehension. So this is reading comprehension is something unavoidable component in any verbal ability test, right? If you take any verbal ability test globally, worldwide, you will have reading comprehension questions, right? So this needs skills and strategy, right? So that strategy for preparing yourself for reading comprehension passages are PAS. I shortly call it as PAS. That is practice, accuracy, and speed, right? And it has a logical order also. So you must go from this order. We should not mix the order, right? So initially, when we practice a lot of reading comprehension questions, we must go for practice. We should not look for accuracy and we should not look for speed. So when you practice regularly, you will get accuracy, right? Gradually, you will get accuracy. And when you start looking for accuracy after a lot of practice, naturally you would have gained speed, right? So practice is the only effort that you're going to put, and accuracy and speed are something that are going to follow without unintentionally, right? You don't have to put effort on finding accuracy. You don't have to put effort on speed. That will automatically follow if you do a lot of practice, right? So You all know what is the structure of a reading comprehension passage. I'll quickly say a reading comprehension is there will be a passage or there will be a paragraph. Very easy level would have only single paragraph. Whereas when we go for intermediate and higher level of reading comprehension passages, the length of the passage would also increase, right? Sometimes when you go for TOEFL exams, IELTS exams, and CAT exams, so these exams have longer passages in the reading comprehension components, right? And questions also vary as per the level of difficulty. If you take easy level reading comprehension questions, you will have direct questions and you won't have indirect questions. Whereas when you go for difficult level and intermediate level, you will have both direct questions as well as indirect questions, right? So we'll see what is a direct question and what is an indirect question. A direct question is a question that looks for a particular answer from the passage, right? So for that question, you can easily find the answer somewhere in the passage. Whereas indirect questions, you cannot find the answer somewhere in the passage, but the whole passage itself is the answer. You know how? The question will be like this. From your understanding of the passage, please suggest from the following statements, which is the one statement according to the passage. So there will be 4 statements given below in the choice. You need to find which is the statement which is actually according to the meaning of the passage and which are the other statements which are not according to the meaning of the passage. And sometimes it will be the other way also. You need to find one statement which is not actually according to the meaning of the passage. So these type of questions will take up a lot of time, and also maintaining accuracy in these type of questions would be more and more difficult, because if you don't understand the passage clearly, you cannot answer this question, because you cannot find the answer for these type of questions inside the paragraph, but the whole inside the passage, but the whole passage itself is the answer for these type of questions. So there is no shortcuts. Some people, they used to immediately go for the questions in their reading comprehension passage, and they'll quickly scan the passage for the answers. So that technique will not work out here, because only if you have a clear understanding of the passage, you can answer these type of questions. All right. So what are the some tips and techniques to solve reading comprehension passages? The first tip would be skim through the passage carefully. You need to read the passage carefully and skim through it, right? Skim in the sense, quickly give a read and grasp all the information that has been given in the passage. Find the core theme. First identify, in the quick reading, first identify what is the core theme of this passage, which would be useful for you to answer all your indirect questions, right? As I told you, for answering indirect questions, you need to have proper understanding of the passage. That is, proper understanding of the passage is what is the core theme and what are the key ideas given in the passage. So if possible, if it is a paper-based test, you can underline the key terms, facts and data given in the passage, which could be used a little later. If it is a direct question, you can quickly go through the underlined terms and you can find answer. But once again, if it is an indirect question, you cannot get answers in the similar way. You have to infer the answer. Read the questions carefully and comprehend the question before answering them. Sometimes, due to the want of time, we may slip in reading the question. That may land us in wrong answer. So we must be very, very cautious in this aspect, because with a slight twist of word, you can entirely comprehend the question in a different way, right? So reading the questions is as equally as important as reading the passage, right? So make sure you know the central theme from the author's point of view. Some passages would be like subjective, more subjective. It would be from an author's point of view, right? For that type of questions, the indirect questions would be more and more difficult. Only if you read the core theme, and also if you are able to understand the core theme from the author's point of view, you can easily answer these type of questions, right? And you should avoid running back to the passage, which means you should read the passage once or twice and you should complete reading from there, right? You should not go back to the passage for answers. If you do that, you will lose a lot and lot of time in reading the passages and again. So as I told you, the complete package of verbal test, it's a verbal aptitude test, it's a timed test. So you have to save a lot of time in vocabulary questions and grammar questions, and you have to give all the reserved time to the reading comprehension questions. But somehow that won't be enough, because if you slip somewhere, if you have not read the passage clearly, you would be going back to the passage once again to look for the answers, and that would take up a lot of time. So what happens? You may not have time for answering the following questions, right? So you should plan your verbal aptitude test clearly for the time's sake. So reading comprehension usually takes a lot of your time available. So you should be very, very careful with this time factor, especially in reading comprehension passages. So verbal ability, it takes time. So that is the sole reason I have chosen this topic for this particular audience group. This time frame, 4 to 5 years of time frame, would be enough to make yourself equipped to clear any verbal aptitude test. So it depends on your consistency and motivation also. So it is not like you prepare for verbal aptitude when you have holidays. You just forget it when you have serious academic programs. Not like that. You should have consistency. You don't spend much time, but spend a few time, like half an hour time each and every day for this verbal aptitude. Verbal aptitude preparation, it's a consistent one, and you should be motivated to keep yourself learning and build your verbal aptitude, right? The first important thing in equipping yourself for verbal aptitude is reading, right? So read newspapers regularly, read books, magazines, blogs, and articles of your interest every day. So articles of your interest in the sense, you may be interested in some field. For example, I'm very interested in cars. So I subscribe each and every magazines online regarding cars, and whenever I get time, so every day I'll spend some time reading about cars. So that keeps myself in the reading habit, and also I enrich my knowledge. Similarly, reading newspapers. I read newspapers daily, which keeps myself equipped in the global affairs and global knowledge. These are the things that are required to crack verbal ability test or verbal aptitude test. I told you the reason. Also, it will increase your reading speed and accuracy. So speed in reading and accuracy in reading is very, very essential for verbal aptitude tests. The next important thing to crack verbal aptitude test is vocabulary. So just basic vocabulary of 1,000 to 1,500 words, which is considered as a normal vocabulary for a graduate, is not enough, right? To crack a verbal aptitude test, you should equip yourself to learn a lot of new words in the due course of time. So that is why we are fixing a time frame of 4 to 5 years for verbal aptitude preparation. So this time is enough for you to gradually increase your vocabulary. So by reading, whenever you come across a new word, you have your mobile phones now, you have your smartphones now. So initially, before the era of smartphones, it would be very difficult for us, right, to learn vocabulary. We need to pick a huge dictionary. We need to turn off pages and pages to find a word. But now, with just a fingerprint, open your mobile phone, click it in, type it in Google. That Google will give you the answers for your words, right? So it's a very easy process now with the support of technology. So use it. So read a lot and gain a lot of words, get to know the words, and most probably try to use that word. So whenever you come across a new word, try to use that word when you speak, or try to use that word when you write something. So that will increase your knowledge in vocabulary, which is very, very essential to crack verbal aptitude vocabulary questions as well as reading comprehension part. Grammar, right? So you should be very strong in basic grammar, and also that time frame, 4 to 5 years, would be needed to make yourself good in basic grammar. There are a lot of web resources available to practice English grammar, right? There are a lot of online tests available. So practice using that, get to know the answers, analyze yourself where you are making mistakes, and try to get rid of it in further exercises so that you can master grammar skills. So basic grammar is very, very essential to crack verbal ability tests. Right. So you should practice. There are as much of web resources available to practice verbal aptitude tests also. There are a lot of practice tests, mock tests available, and there are a lot of individual component questions like vocabulary. If you take synonyms, a lot of synonyms questions are there. If you take antonyms, a lot of antonyms questions are there. Different websites and different resources available, and also there are certain exam preparation organizations. You can take their help also to prepare for verbal aptitude tests. But practice, you need to practice a lot. Only by practice you can crack these verbal aptitude tests. This would be needed especially if you go for if you plan for master education after your undergraduation. If you plan for master educations abroad, you need to clear IELTS or TOEFL exams, and there you need this verbal aptitude. And if you wish to take in premium admissions in a premium institutions, you need to clear exams like JEE, CAT, MAT, ZAT, SAT, and there are so many other entrance examinations. And each and every entrance examination, you will find verbal aptitude tests. And if you wish to go for a job, right? So there in campus placement rounds, the first round would be a verbal aptitude round. And if you if you wish to join government sectors, UPSC exams or grade exams, wherever you go, there will be verbal aptitude tests. If you plan for bank jobs, there are exams for bank jobs, and obviously there also you have this verbal aptitude questions, and you can easily solve these verbal aptitude questions if you practice from now on. All right, so that much important this verbal aptitude plays a role in your career development. So this is the right time. You wake up, you spend some time each and every day to equip yourself for verbal aptitude. By the time when you complete your graduation, you would be able to face verbal aptitude questions, and there you can be far more better than the rest of the people if you are good in verbal aptitude. You can make a note of these websites. So these are some websites which give quality material to practice verbal aptitude questions. So you can choose these websites, go into that, and find different components of verbal aptitude, and there will be help also to practice, and there will be questions and mock tests also to practice verbal aptitude. You can make a note of it. You can take a screenshot. Later you can refer to that. All right. So I rest my presentation here, and good luck, my dear friends, in all your future endeavors, and all the best for your career development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sugandhan, for guiding us to set a clear path and letting us to know the most important part of getting what we want is actually knowing what we want. Thank you for helping us to know the design, implement goals, plans and strategies to enable career development. Thank you once again. Thank you, participants. Your questions are noted. Please do not fail to fill the feedback form for your certificates, which you will receive it within a week. By now, you would have received your feedback link in the chat box. Please refer. Let us wind up this session with a formal note of thanks. And now I invite Mr. Anbumani, Professor, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Easwari Engineering College, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Jane, ma'am. Okay. Good morning, the speaker and the participants and my colleagues. I feel immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. And the outset, my sincere thanks towards respected chairman, co-chairman, and the director for granting us the permission to conduct this webinar. And continuously, we are doing webinars, and 3 more webinars are coming next week. And I would also like to thank our principal, vice principal, deans, and the heads of the department for the continuous support and encouraging us. And my very big thanks goes to the speaker for accepting this webinar. Dear speaker, with your presence, this webinar has become very special, unique, and informative. Thank you, sir. And we are really delighted with your verbal ability and able to understand the importance of verbal ability in the aspects of competitive exams. Once again, I thank you very much, sir. It's a great chance to build our confidence towards verbal ability. And finally, my sincere thanks towards the participants for the passive listening. Dear participants, with your presence and continuous support and involvement, we are doing our best. So we are indeed and very honored by your presence. Once again, I thank all the participants and the speaker for joining us. Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
Anbumani
you.
sir.
It-
Thank you, Anbumani sir, and thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Sugandhan. Thank you all participants. We will be meeting you soon with another interesting topic, with another interesting speaker soon. Thank you.